I'd like to welcome everyone. Today is February 21st, 2024. This is a meeting of the Cities and Counties Subcommittee. I'd like to welcome all the guests we have. We have more guests than we have members right now. The committee will be in order. Ms. Anderson, please take the roll.
Representative Alexander, Representative Hale, Representative Holtzclaw, Representative McKenzie, Representative Slater, Representative Wright, Chairman Crawford, Chairman Moon.
Present.
Chairman Moon, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Do any of the members wish to recognize any guests, or do we have any personal orders? Seeing none, we will take up today's calendar. Our first bill, which is House Bill 2547 by Leader Lambert. We've had a request to roll this bill 1 week. Is there objection to the roll? Hearing no objection, House Bill 2547 is rolled 1 week. The next bill is House Bill 474 by Chairman Reagan. Is there a motion? We have a motion and a second on House Bill 474. Chairman Reagan, you are recognized on House Bill 474.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is an amendment on this bill that I'd like to put on it. It rewrites
Yes, sir. Do you have barcode 6528?
That is correct, sir.
I need it. We have a motion and a second on Amendment 6528. Chairman Reagan, you are recognized on the amendment, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very briefly, this amendment specifies that a county, municipality, nor a metropolitan government shall not expend funds for the purpose of studying or dispersing reparations. As used in this section, reparations means money or benefits provided to individuals who are descendants of persons who were enslaved. I will point out, in support of this bill, no one is alive today who was either a slave or a slaveholder in the time frame that slavery was legal in this country. If there were to be a reparations program, the question becomes, from whom are these reparations taken, and to whom are these reparations paid? The architects of our Constitution, both state and federal, understood the immense danger of political resentment and revenge. Our founding fathers designated in our constitutions and enshrined, in fact, a better way of justice. First-hand experience with the injustices of the old world caused them to put two things in our constitutions at the state and federal level. Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution, Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution, Article 1 of the Tennessee Constitution articulate a crucial and fundamental principle of justice. In England, it was common to target the estate and even the heirs of a person accused of treason or other felony. Our founders thought this was such a great injustice that they prohibited it in our Constitution. They used the term corruption of blood. The principle behind this is one we should all embrace as a cornerstone of our justice system. It is wrong to punish one person for the crime of another. It is wrong to punish an entire family for the crime of a single member of that family. Kin punishment, which is what that is known as, is a practice that is common in totalitarian regimes. It exists today in China, or portions of China, I should say, South Korea, and even, although in South Korea it's very rare since they've changed their constitution, but in North Korea it's still there. The idea is an anathema to our founding fathers, who held that these truths are self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. What that boils down to is those rights are not hampered or shortened by some act of some ancestor. And so this bill essentially says that regardless of who did what to whom 170 some years ago, those of us who were not alive then are not obligated to pay anyone whose family member may have been harmed by what went on in that time frame. That is the summary of the bill and justification behind it. And I would point out that it's the correct and fair thing to do. With that, I stand ready for questions.
Thank you, sponsor. At this time, I recognize Representative McKenzie on the amendment, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment, and as you pointed out, do you realize that when those words were penned, slaves exist when it said all men are created equal?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Sponsor,
I certainly recognize that.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you. So with that, at the beginning of can you agree that at the beginning of the formation of our country, the playing field was skewed and slanted away from the Africans that were brought to America?
Mr. Sponsor.
I certainly will agree to that, but I'll also point out that indentured servitude, which is a different name for slavery, existed at the same time among a number of other ethnicities. Beyond all that, if we're going to tackle slavery, in my mind, we need to be doing slavery in modern day. That's human trafficking. That's a major concern as far as I'm concerned for slavery. What happened 170 years ago when there's no one alive today who was a slave then, or no one alive today who was a slaveholder at that time? What are we going to take from whom, and who are we going to give it to?
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To equate slavery with prostitution, I think they're apples and oranges. Slavery existed, and it resulted in death by horrible means and a horrible life that has permeated that person's life, because you also equated slavery to indentured servitude, which was not. There were two separate things. There was a contract with indentured servitude. There's no contract. There was no agreement when slaves were ripped from the country and brought here. And to say that after 400 years of slavery, that everything's equal, when we can look around this room, this state, this country, and see that obviously things are not equal. And that is a direct link to the only people that were brought over here against their will, the only people. So to say everything's equal and level when the whole playing field was by design skewed, and now this amendment is going to erase all of that, when in that 170 something years, not one dime of reparations have been given to the African American people. Not one dime in this state for any of our citizens, I think is short-sighted, and that's the best word that I can use.
Mr. Sponsor.
Thank you very much. And to my colleagues' points, I will not offer any rebuttal from the standpoint of what happened 170 years ago. Plus, I will say this. One of my aunts did a family tree research on my family all the way back to Jamestown. They were exiled over here by being defeated by Oliver Cromwell. From that time frame in the 1600s to the current day, no one in that genealogy owned slaves. In fact, in that genealogy, it turns out that, interestingly, some of my ancestors fought for the Union and some fought for the Confederacy. One of my ancestors married a Cherokee Indian that fought for the Confederacy. Another of my ancestors was part of the Underground Railroad. So from whom are we taking the reparations? And for what crimes? If none of my ancestors were involved in that, why should I, or any other taxpayer for that matter, who had nothing to do with it from that time to this, or maybe those who've come over since then, particularly after the Irish potato famine, why should they be paying reparations for something they had nothing to do with? And to whom should they pay it? If there were slaves still alive today, you might have a case in terms of saying that they're deserving of reparations, but there are none.
Yes, sir. Representative McKenzie.
Thank you. Are you aware that the folks that were encumbered and put into camps during World War II, the Japanese Americans were given reparations, not just them, but their descendants?
Mr. Sponsor.
Yes, I am, sir. My late aunt was in fact Japanese American, and I have cousins that are mixed Japanese American blood. I'm well aware of that.
Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, is there objection to the question? Hearing no objection, we're voting on Amendment 6528. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no.
No.
The ayes prevail, and the amendment will move forward. Now we're back on the bill, House Bill 474. Is there any more discussion? Representative McKenzie, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me to engage in this type dialogue. And it's unfortunate that I am here engaging in this type dialogue. Never in my life would I thought that I would be engaging in this type dialogue. As relates to what this country has done, we gave reparations to Japanese Americans that were captured, put in places for 5 years or less. And we're going to pass a bill out of this subcommittee that will forever prevent a group of people that were enslaved, brought over here in chains through the Middle Passage with death and dismemberment and all sorts of disease happened, brought here to be enslaved for 400 years, beaten, hung, forced to work, forced to provide all sorts of services to others for 400 years. And we're going to, in one fell swoop, say that everything's equal because no one's lived today that lived then. Although we know what happened. We can look through these halls and see what happened. You can look at Reconstruction. You can look at Jim Crow laws. You can look at all these oppressive things that have happened. Now we're going to say in 2024 that none of that mattered. I think it says a lot. But we still live in a great country, in a great state. In spite of, we can't run. We can't run from our past. You can't pass laws like this law to escape the past. It will not help. This bill does not help make this country great. This bill tears down our country and our people, both the enslaved and the slaver. It says nothing was wrong because you all died before you asked. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Sponsor, do you have a response?
I would only ask, from whom do we take the preparations? Since those that are guilty of the potential wrongs that were mentioned are not here, to whom do we pay reparations? Since none of those who were wronged are here. There is no such thing in our country as corruption of blood or forcing families or descendants of people who committed wrongs to pay for those wrongs. If they didn't commit them themselves, they're innocent of those wrongs.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This country was built on the backs of slaves. The roads that created this country were built on the backs of slaves. The Washington, D.C. was built by slaves. A lot of our colleges were built by slave and slave labor. This country became a great country because labor was free. So who do we take the reparations from? This, we would not be a superpower. You must understand that. We couldn't be a superpower had it not been for free labor. We're a young country. We're extremely young as a country. So for a country like the United States to become such a great power, it came on the backs of slaves. And that's a good thing. So that's where it should come from. But nobody's even asking for reparations. But this bill is washing it over. So to answer your question, that's where it could come from.
Any other members having comments, questions? Is there objection to the question? Hearing no objection, we're voting on House Bill 474. All in favor say aye. The ayes prevail. House Bill 474 and Amendment 6528 move to the next available calendar of local government. Our next bill is 1999 by Chairman Hicks. We have a motion and second on House Bill 1999. Chairman Hicks, you're recognized.
All right. Thank you, Chairman, Committee. House Bill 1999 provides for an increase in funding distributed to each of the 9 development districts across the state. And this would actually be the first funding increase outside of occasional one-time appropriations since 2007.
Questions? Comments? Representative Hale, you're recognized, sir.
Mr. Hicks, thank you so much for this bill. I don't think we can, in rural Tennessee especially, can realize the return of investment that our development districts bring into our communities. The development district that I have, Upper Cumberland Development District, Mark Farley and them do an awesome job with grants and assistance to our community. So I want to say thank you for this bill, and I'm glad to support this bill. Thank you so much.
Chairman Hicks, any response?
Thank you, Representative Hale. Appreciate it.
Any other questions from the committee? Representative, you're
I
recognized.
too want to say thank you. You know, we share the same developmental district and could not do it without the first district of East Tennessee and just everything they help, from the elderly to our children and their education to everything. It's amazing what they get done with the amount of funds that they have. So I'm glad. I also have one quick question. Where is the Mid-South development? What's that taking into? Is that, or are we pulling some from other areas and making a separate one? Because it says that we're going to add the Mid-South development. I'm sorry.
Chairman Hicks.
This actually references the Memphis Area Association of Governments. They have actually changed their name to Mid-South Development
Oh,
District.
okay. Sorry. I just wanted to.
Representative Alexander, that's great. And
Sorry.
no, that's
Name.
quite all right. Chairman Hicks, would you like to, there's been some anecdotal conversation about this as raising the assessments, and I don't believe that's fact, but would you like to go on the record,
Yeah,
Chairman Hicks?
I can. This bill really is a cleanup more than anything. The legislation, and I'll just hit some of the high points so that I don't miss anything here. It modernizes how the state appropriates money to development districts by setting the annual amount at 50 cents per capita based on the state's latest census figures. This change will provide for an additional state funding of up to $1.2 million, which is $450,670 over the fiscal year 2024 apportionment. Also, the bill collapses the first 3 state appropriation tiers, as each of the 9 districts have raised their local government per capita assessment beyond the 15-cent threshold, and this renders the first 3 tiers obsolete and unnecessary. The bill further cleans up the statute by eliminating specific references. Well, what we just talked about, the Memphis area will be known as now Mid-South. And then finally, the legislation requires that once all state funding is distributed based on the per capita requirement, any leftover funding will be distributed by the Department of Economic and Community Development based on a formula created in coordination with the Development District Association. And the formula shall consider each district size in terms of population, number of counties served, and cost of living.
Thank you, Chairman Hicks, for that very detailed explanation. Does any other members have questions? Without objection, hearing no objection, we're voting on House Bill 1999. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. The ayes prevail. House Bill 1999 moves to the next available calendar of local government.
All right, thank you, Chairman.
Hick.
Committee.
Our next bill is House Bill 1931 by Representative Gillespie. Is there a motion? We have a motion, a second on House Bill 1931. You're recognized.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and committee. What this bill does simply is it will prohibit local governments from restricting police department's ability to perform effective and lawful policing procedures such as routine traffic stops. And with that, I welcome any questions.
Members who have any questions or comments? The chair would like to ask, we're passing a bill to tell city councils and county commissions not to pass something in violation of a current law. Am I reading that correctly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, that is exactly correct.
And did something happen in your district that brought this about?
Yes, sir. The Memphis City Council last year passed a series of ordinances that literally made it so that police officers employed by the Memphis Police Department could not pull over someone for not wearing a seatbelt, could not pull over someone for no taillights, broken taillights, even weaving down the road, which in my opinion and other people's opinions and the data shows do make the roads less safe. Because if you don't have people stopping at stoplights, if you don't have people going the speed limit, bad things happen. And right now the police in my city, their hands are tied to prevent them from making some of these common sense stops.
Representative McKenzie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So are you saying if I pull the records that the city of Memphis does not stop people from making illegal lane changes and running red lights and stop signs?
Representative Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the exact language of the ordinances that were passed, I actually do not have them in front of me, but what they did was prevented local law enforcement who swear an oath to the state constitution and get their powers from the state, not the city, and having them choose between what is already state law. It is a state law that you are required to have vehicle insurance. It is a state law that you are required to wear a seatbelt. It is a state law that you have to have working windshield wipers. It is a state law that says you are required to have your lights work. These are all state laws. And what the ordinance did was, no, MPD will not pull you over and issue a citation for those offenses. However, it's state law. So right now, the officers are in a very tough spot between their paycheck and their oath.
Representative McKenzie.
So I'm going to try to ask the same question in a different way. Maybe I can get an answer to the question that I'm asking. Are you saying from the time that the city council passed whatever ordinance you're talking about, that the city of Memphis Police Department has not stopped anyone for not having the insurance, have not stopped anyone for not having all the proper lights, they've not stopped anyone from running a stop sign or any other state law traffic violation? Is that what you're saying?
Representative McKenzie. Excuse me, Representative Gillespie.
Thank you so much. So the Memphis City Council passed an ordinance that prohibits the police department from initiating routine traffic stops. That is what happened. Now, since that took place, the former administration, we just got a new mayor recently, the former administration, because of advice of the city attorney and council, and this is all public record, said maybe not the best idea to enforce that ordinance that was passed by the city council. And so since then, I believe January 2nd or 3rd, that policy from the new administration changed. And so it is my understanding that since then, yes, that is the policy of the MPD.
Any follow-up, Representative McKenzie?
Last question. What you laid out, and there's several of us that have actually served on local served on, what you laid out, and there's several of us that have served on local committee, on local governing bodies, is what local government should do. When they find they make a mistake, they change. We don't want Washington. We've had a lot of our laws overturned, courts of law. We don't want Washington coming in here changing our laws. We would be deeply offended if that happened. If we make a mistake, pick TISA. We changed it. We passed a law, and then we made it better. That's why we're here. But that's why they're there too. To your point, if they did pass a law, and I don't live in Memphis, if they did pass an ordinance, it sounds like they fixed it. But what this law is doing, will do, if passed, what this bill would do, is make it peanut butter spread across the state of Tennessee. Shelby County has issues. We get that. But Shelby County should handle Shelby County's issues. And it sounds like they are. But we're coming in, putting our feet on the necks of all 95 counties and however many municipalities based on one bad ordinance. That makes no sense.
Representative Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just remind the committee that this is a public safety issue. What I'm talking about here is, I would hope every member of the committee would agree it's the right thing to wear a seatbelt. It saves lives. I would hope that everyone in this committee would think that driving at night without your lights on is dangerous. What we've done is we've literally taken it out of the hands of law enforcement, who all they're trying to do is to ensure you're safe. And right now, yes, in Shelby County, but also in other parts of the state, there is erratic behavior on our roadways. There are lots of problems, and a lot of these problems can be prevented with these types of traffic enforcement. And that is all this is doing, is saying that there are laws that are already on the book, and state law preempts any local ordinance every day, every time. And these are common sense public safety issues that my community is begging for enforcement. It's kind of crazy to think about how many people comment to me on a daily basis, I wish I got pulled over speeding. The police do not do it. They want to, they would like to, because I think we would all recognize going 75 miles an hour down a 40-mile-per-hour residential street is not safe. However, that is what's happening now, and this addresses that.
Chairman Holtzclaw.
Thank you, Chairman Moon, and I appreciate you recognizing me. Representative Gillespie, I think that this bill's good. We wonder why Memphis is in the shape it's in, and it's because of things like this. So I appreciate the bill, and hopefully we'll get it better straightened out in the future.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other comments? Is there objection to the question? Hearing no objection, we're voting on House Bill 1931. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. No. The ayes prevail. House Bill 1931 moves to the next available calendar of local government.
Thank you so much.
Our last bill, House Bill 2389 by Chairman Keesley. Chairman Keesley has requested that this bill be rolled 1 week. Is there objection? Hearing no objection, House Bill 2389 is rolled 1 week. That concludes today's calendar. At this time, does anyone have any announcements? Chairman Crawford, any words of wisdom? All right, without objection, this meeting is adjourned. Hearing no objection, we are adjourned.